Welcome to the Strength for the Day podcast, which is a daily Bible study with Dennis Fountain. We hope this time together will be challenging, sharpening, uplifting, encouraging, and strengthening to your Christian walk. Thank you for joining us, and we pray you are helped through today's study.
Hey, welcome back to Strength for the Day. And I almost forgot the title of the podcast. That tells you how my brain is going this morning. But anyway, I'm looking forward to our time together today. We're coming to a passage in 1 Kings 19, the study we've been in, looking at really the faithfulness of God and the fact that we serve an unfailing God. And man may fail us, but God never will. And even though sometimes God's will and decisions are different than what we would choose, but in the long run, we need to know that we serve a faithful God who will always work for His glory and for our good. And we have that promise from the New Testament. But today we come, 1 Kings chapter 19. We've been following the story of the prophet Elijah. He has been just standing against Ahab and his wife Jezebel. And Elijah, in our last 2 episodes ago, we saw him have a great victory because of the Lord bringing fire down from heaven. And then Elijah had victory over the false prophets of Baal. And when that took place, really it upset Ahab immensely, King Ahab. And in our last episode, we saw the drought ended and Elijah's prayer answered before the Lord. But today we come to verse number 1 of chapter 19, and we're going to come to a topic that every single one of us struggle with, and it is the topic of discouragement. We all face it. We all face discouragement. I will tell you that in my life, I know that one of my spiritual gifts is the gift of exhortation and encouragement. But I also know that the downside of that is I can become very down on myself and on the expectations I have for me, and I can be discouraged easily. And I don't know if that's you, but I know that takes place in my life. And so I know this chapter, we'll see it even continue in our next episode, but this chapter and this episode, these verses in particular, will be a help to us. All right? So 1 Kings chapter 19, verse number 1, it says this, "And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had executed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, 'So let the gods do to me and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time.'" So Jezebel sends this threat to Elijah. Hey, you killed the prophets of God. And notice what she says, "Let the gods do to me," the false gods of Baal. So Jezebel says, she's still leaning on and trusting in the gods of Baal. Her and Ahab never got their hearts right with God. And so she says, these false gods, I'm going to pray to them and let them do to me if I don't kill you by tomorrow. Now, there is a lot in that that I want us to understand. But before we do, let's notice what takes place. Verse number 3. When Elijah, when he saw that, he arose and ran for his life and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. So Elijah gets this threat, and he immediately just runs for his life. But here's my question. Even though Jezebel said, "I'm coming after you," we have to look. She said, "Let the gods do to me and more also, if I do not make your life, if I don't kill you by tomorrow at this time. Let the gods, the false gods." Elijah, why are you running? Man, you have God literally just a couple days before, the day before this, God brought fire down from heaven to prove that He is greater than these false gods. Elijah, why are you running? Now, again, in the humanity, we could probably say, well, he's running because he knows that she could kill him. She could come after him. Yes, I recognize that. But the threat that Elijah is seeing, I would present to you and I today that it is not a credible threat. It's not. The false gods they don't even exist, and God has already put them down and put them in their place. And I think Elijah, the Bible tells us kind of why he runs. Look at verse number 4. He leaves his servant in Beersheba, and he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree, and he prayed that he might die. And he said, "It is enough now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." You know, he hit this place where he was discouraged, alone. He felt defeated. And you know, sometimes in your life, what causes discouragement is actually not a credible threat. It's not truth. Yeah, Jezebel, she did want to kill him. That was truth, but she had no power behind her threats. God was the one backing Elijah. And yet Elijah goes and he, in discouragement, believes a lie. And it says in verse number 5, as he lay and slept under the broom tree, suddenly an angel touched him and said, "Arise and eat." And he looked, and there by his head was a cake baked on coals and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and laid down again. And the angel of the Lord came back a second time, touched him and said, "Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you." So he arose and ate and drank. And he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights as far as Horeb, the mountain of God. We'll come back and cover all these verses in just a second. There he went into a cave and spent the night in that place. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him and said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And so he said, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts, for your children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I alone am left, and they seek to take my life." And I'm going to stop right there. We'll get God's message to Elijah tomorrow in our next episode. But here's what I want us to see today. And this is, I'm getting emotional. This is so helpful for me. Do you know what happens? The Lord doesn't rebuke Elijah. In this moment, the Lord sends an angel to provide some food and some water and some rest. And you know what? When I look at my life, sometimes the discouragement of my life happens because I'm just worn out. And I know that takes place. Many of you who watch, go to our church and have said, "Man, Pastor, take some time off, get some rest." And my wife and I both, we tend to lean into work and moving things forward and all of that. And you know, sometimes when I'm just going, I mean, I can do pretty well for a while. I mean, I can go for probably 3 or 4 weeks just pushing and getting things done. But you know, often I can push a lot, and then I get so tired, and that's when discouragement begins to set in. I can be discouraged. That's why a lot of pastors face this. I don't face a lot of discouragement on Mondays, but that's why a lot of pastors do face discouragement on Mondays. And I know I have before, because Sunday didn't go as good as I thought it should. My message wasn't as helpful as I wanted it to be. I preached too long, or it wasn't as clear as I wanted. Or maybe our attendance, there were some families not there that normally should be, and maybe that person that I wanted to trust Christ and come and trust Jesus didn't. And you know, you just get discouraged over what is not taking place. And in Elijah's heart, that's what I think he's getting discouraged over. He says, "I'm the only one that's left," even though we know that Ahab's servant Obadiah had hidden 150 different prophets and are different believers. So Elijah is not the only one, and yet he takes this non-credible threat and he allows it to turn all of his attention away from God and what God has been doing onto what is not happening and how he feels. And I think that in my life, I do that so much, and it leads to that discouragement. But I'm so grateful that God has patience with me. And you know what God does? Sometimes God just says, "Hey, you know what you need? You just need some rest. Hey, just take a break. Get some rest, get some nourishment, and then we'll talk." And so here's my challenge to you. Our time's running out. Here's my challenge to you. Look at this story and realize that discouragement comes to everyone. Here's a prophet of God that has seen God work, and yet he's in a moment of discouragement. Hey, don't let discouragement defeat you. Let discouragement, allow it to slow you down, but then in it, let God comfort you and let God bring strength to you and let God help you overcome discouragement. And how is the Lord going to do that? Well, I love how God does all of this. We're going to see, I think it's in the next passage, we see the Lord reveal himself to Elijah. And I don't want to get ahead of it, but when you look at God bringing comfort to Elijah, God used a messenger. He used the angel. And that angel just came and said, hey, get up, eat, drink some water. All right, now go back to rest. Sometimes your discouragement can be conquered when you just slow down, put your focus back on the Lord, on what God is doing, and allow God to just slow you down a little bit. And so I want to encourage you, if you're facing some discouragement today, realize that God doesn't come and just say, hey, snap out of it. No, in this moment, God came and comforted Elijah, strengthened him, and then said, all right, now we're going to move on. And we'll see how he does that in our next episode. But today, if you're facing discouragement, recognize that you still serve a loving God. And maybe you just need to slow down, get some rest, get some food, get some nourishment, and allow God to just come alongside your heart and say, hey, I've got you. It's okay. And I know that still small voice that we'll see in a few episodes, that's what I need to listen to often when I face discouragement. So hope that'll help you today. Understand God desires that you and I would daily overcome any discouragement that we face. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you in our next episode in 1 Kings chapter 19. We'll pick up in verse number 11. See you tomorrow.